In this video, I'm going to kind of go through my website and maybe some good places to look, some good things to check out that you wouldn't normally check out. So when most people come to my website, some of the first things that they do is click on or just check out the homepage probably. So you can check out the homepage. I put some news and updates here. There's some pictures, a little bit of information here on the side, along with my email, and just some additional links. As well as a couple of my favorite Bible verses. So people tend to check out that one. I think then they kind of head to maybe the About Us or the Available Puppies page. And I don't know if everybody spends a whole lot of time on some of these other pages, which is fine. But there might be some good things on there that would be some interesting things to check out if you're considering getting a puppy from us or if you're just checking out the breed in general. So again, I'm not really going to go through the About Us or a lot with the Available Puppies page. One thing I will say is with the Available Puppies page, most people do probably click here it says Available TFTs. And on this page, we do have a link here that takes you to an article that we wrote for AKC. It is published on their website, so you can check that out for sure. And a lot of times there's maybe some information here. People look at the pictures. You can kind of check all this stuff out. But what we always want people to do if they're considering getting a puppy from us, and I always put this in my kind of like initial email to people too, if they email us and then I reply that initial email, is I tell them to check out this Available Puppies page and read all the way to the bottom. So what we want you to do is just to kind of get a general idea of how like the adoption process works, like the fact that we kind of will place puppies under different titles. Like here it talks about a companion puppy versus a show prospect versus a young adult. Is there any real difference between a companion and a show prospect? For the most part, no. I mean, there might be a little bit of a difference maybe in size or things like markings, things like that. But you're getting puppies from the same exact litter that would go as a show prospect or as a companion. It's really more about like what the people want to do with them. So if somebody just wants a pet, and that's where we place the majority of our puppies, even though we do show our puppies, I would say 98% of our puppies go to companion homes. So we want them to go to loving homes where they're going to be members of the family. That is much more important to us than having, 100 champions or whatever. People just want to work on getting their champion numbers up. We could champion almost every puppy that we breed or every puppy that we've bred, and we could keep it, we could show it, we could make sure we hold on to it till it goes to a show home. We could do that, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing for us is that we have quality dogs that we can show and have fun with, but that the rest of the puppies, if there's a great show home that comes along that's, going to treat the puppy well and treat it like a member of the family, then that's great. Or if somebody wants to maybe like have a puppy as a pet, but they maybe also want to show it some, maybe try something new, then that's great. But for the most part, our puppies go on a spay-neuter agreement, and they go to a companion home. So this just kind of breaks that down and like how those are maybe described here. So you can look at companion puppies, show prospects, and we occasionally do have young adults available as well. Sometimes we'll maybe keep back like 2 puppies for us to kind of consider, and I'll say like grow them out is kind of what you'll hear people say, where you just kind of raise both of them up, and then at some point, you can't keep them all. I don't want to be a hoarder, so I have to make a decision on like which of those 2 puppies to place. So there's a lot of times when I have a young adult available, it's not that there's anything wrong with that young adult. It's just that I have to be pretty selective in which dogs I keep, and I don't want to keep more than I can properly take care of. So occasionally we do have these young adults available. So this section just kind of goes through, what the puppies go home with. You guys can look through that. And then how the puppies are placed. That's another thing I know people really check out. And that's great. We want people to read this so they have a general idea of like how we place our puppies and the time frame and how our waiting list works and all of that. So you can read through that. One thing that people sometimes miss here, I would encourage you to watch this video as well, but people will sometimes miss here at the bottom. We have these 2 links to our adoption agreement. When people decide to like join our waiting list, you don't have to fill this agreement out at that time. It would be filled out the day you pick up your puppy, but we always want people to read this adoption agreement ahead of time before they decide to join the waiting list, just so they know what the expectations are and there's not like a big surprise, the day you come to get your puppy. Oh, I didn't know I was gonna have to spay or neuter the dog, or, something like that. that's in there. So that's something to check out. So that's one thing I did want to talk about on the available puppies page, although I know this is a page that is visited frequently. It's something I just want to talk about there at the bottom. So some of the other pages. So obviously the dogs page. So you can go here and you can click on our boys, and it just takes you to our current boys. So currently we have 2. We have Sparky and Batman. You can click on here and it will take you to their page, and you can check out more about them, their health clearances, all of that. On the boys page, if you keep scrolling down, you can see some of our retired boys. So boys that aren't currently part of our breeding program, or maybe even they have, passed on at this point. So you can do the same thing with the girls. Again, you can click on the girls and check out them. One thing I will talk about under the available puppies, like little drop down here, we do have a little bit of information on upcoming litters. A lot of times I don't necessarily update this for every litter that we'll be having. I put that like more up-to-date stuff on our Facebook page. So that's a good place to check out that, or you can just email us. Raising our puppies is definitely a good place to check out, or preparing for your puppy. So these are 2 that people don't necessarily read maybe the first time they visit our website, but they are definitely something good to read at some point before you would get a puppy from us, or even before you get a puppy from somebody else, especially the preparing for your puppy. Obviously, raising our puppies is going to be different, breeder to breeder. Breeders don't raise their puppies the same. So if you go to the Raising Our Puppies page here, internet's being a little bit slow. This page just talks about what we do at each step. So where they're born, how they spend their day, how they spend their night, what's happening at each kind of stage here as we have them. So that's just something good to read through at some point. Again, even if you don't get a puppy from us, it might just be good things to read and understand, and then you could ask your breeder about, are you doing things like this, or so forth. Preparing for your puppy just talks about the things that maybe you would need to get, items and where you can buy them. Do you have to have all of these things? No, but these are just some recommendations on some collars. It's kind of a messy looking page because some of the links are really long, but like here, it just has like some puppy collars, some slip leads, and then this link here will take you like directly, if I click on this, it'll take me directly to that Amazon page and that slip lead. So again, you don't have to buy any of these things. You may have all of the things you need, but these are just some things that we recommend. All right, so some of the other things. So we have a photo gallery. You can see our past champions or current champions there. So TFT Info and links. So this is one that not everybody visits, but it's definitely a good place to check out. So on here, we have just some information about the breed in general. So here you can click on this and it'll take you to AKC's information about toy fox terriers. Here's the specific breed standard. So if you want to know like what colors are acceptable, what color should a toy fox be? If you find toy foxes that are like other colors, like you're finding them in like blues or merles or, some colors that don't exist in the breed, generally that's not, I shouldn't say generally, it is not going to be a reputable breeder. Could a color, like a weird color pop up, like a breeder just gets like, especially a mismarked puppy where maybe it has white where it shouldn't have. Those things do happen. Genetics are weird that way. But genetically, you should never be able to get like a merle toy fox terrier or some of these weird, lilac colors and things like that. So it talks about the colors, the sizes, the temperament, things like that, the coat. Here's a little bit about the toy fox terrier history. You can go and check on that. This takes you to the American Toy Fox Terrier Club. So every breed has a parent club, it's called. And this parent club is kind of like the national, like states-wide, it's the United States, like big club. Now there are regional clubs as well. There's not really one around here. There's just not enough TFT breeders in this area to really support a club. But there are some other like clubs, throughout the United States as well that are like local or regional clubs. But this is like the one that covers like the entire United States. If you want to look for reputable breeders, there's the breeders listed by state on this website. So you can click on that and then search for breeders by state. Here's just another link to that same website. Here's something good to check out. So there are some health conditions that are current or that are commonly found in toy fox terriers. So this just goes over some of those. So PLL, here's just a link, and this will take you right to some information on primary lens luxation, which looks like the picture here isn't showing up, but, oh, actually this, it looks like I need to update my, update my link. It looks like they've moved their information there at the University of Missouri. So I guess I need to go through and make sure all these links actually take us to the correct place. So SCA is another condition that's commonly found in toy fox terriers. Looks like they have moved this one as well. So I'm going to have to go through and check these out and update those and make sure they actually take you to a correct page. When I originally did this, you can see it took you right to this disease, and it talked about this diseases. So when the other people update their their websites, then it's not taking you to the right place. Even our parent club one, not going to the right place. All right, well, I'll have to check those out, but definitely a place to check out. And even again, if a link to something is broken, still you can Google search information on PLL, primary lens luxation, SCA, CHG, and so forth. Here's just some owner comments. There's some frequently asked questions. I think people do tend to visit this page relatively often, but just something good to check out. Because I do still get asked these questions a lot, which is fine. I mean, I don't really care if I answer a question that's on here, but you might get some of your questions answered, by checking this out. Something like the second question here, how many people are on your waiting list, that would be, you can read this for general information, but that's always going to vary throughout the year, so there, at one point during the year, I might only have 3 or 4 people on my waiting list. Other times of the year, I might have 15, 16 people on my waiting list. It does vary throughout the year just based on how many people are looking for puppies at that time. But good place here to just check out some of our questions. One of them here is talking about spaying and neutering. When do you recommend having your toy fox terrier spayed or neutered? We recommend waiting until your puppy is full grown or as close to full grown as possible. Between 8 and 14 months is probably best. Most vets will pressure you to spay or neuter your pet earlier than this. A lot of times they're going to start pushing you to schedule this when you have probably your last puppy vaccination done, which is going to be, probably in the around 3 to 4 months. They're not necessarily going to want it done at that time, but they're going to want you to go ahead and get that scheduled. A lot of times they want it done between like 5 and 6 or 5 and 7 months. The problem with this is, when you're spaying and neutering a dog, you are taking away those organs, those sex organs that produce hormones that impact the way your dog grows. So if you do this too early, it could lead to other health issues. Could it lead to other health issues even if it's done later? Well, sure, but it can also lead to health issues if those organs are left intact as well. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, I guess. But I think spaying and neutering does definitely have its value. But I think it's nice to wait until that dog is fully mature. And there are things that you can do with females. There's a thing called an ovary sparing spay. So if you would want your female to have her hormones throughout her entire life, that is an option. Your vet may not offer it. You may have to go someplace else. But you can do an ovary sparing spay, and what that does is it's basically just taking of the uterus and it leaves the ovaries behind. So your dog's going to have the benefit of all of the hormones, but it's not going to go through its heat cycles. It can't get pregnant. Okay, so that's the benefit there. But there are risks involved with keeping those ovaries. As far as the big one that people worry about is mammary tumors. That's something to consider too. You can kind of weigh those pros and cons. But there are some conditions that are known to be found in animals that are spayed and neutered because they don't have those hormones as well. But I do think there's definitely a benefit in waiting until the dog is fully matured. Now, the problem with this, with both boys and girls, is the boys, if you wait too long, sometimes they'll start to like lift their leg and do little boy behaviors. Generally don't have people worry about them like humping things. That's very rare that they're going to do that because they're not neutered. In most cases, if dogs do any kind of behaviors like that, it's actually like a dominance issue and not anything to do, with them being left intact. It's not a behavior that, I generally see a whole lot in toy fox terriers, but it is one that, could happen. But generally what the boys will start to do if they're left intact too long is they'll just start to lift their leg and pee on things. If they aren't around other boy dogs, they kind of like pick it up, even though it's in them to kind of do naturally. They tend to pick up the behavior from other boy dogs. So if they're around other males that are marking, they will start to do it earlier usually. Whereas if you have an intact boy dog that is not around other marking, adult males, sometimes they won't really ever start the behavior, or they'll start it much later. So that's something to consider as well. The females, obviously, they may go through a heat cycle if you wait till 12 or 14 months. So that's the negative there, is you're really going to have to protect that female for that 21 days that they are in their season. Females generally bleed a lot in the first, not a lot, but the majority of their, spotting happens in like the first 10 to 12 days of their heat cycle. And then that kind of subsides. And a lot of people at that point think that, oh, well, she's not in season anymore. And actually, as that bleeding starts to subside is when she is the most fertile. So if you have a female and you decide to go through that first heat cycle before you get her spayed, which is what I would, recommend, you're really going to have to protect her for that full 21 days. She is not to be around any intact boys, even if she's wearing you can get them like little pants to wear, or little body suits. They're not spotting on the furniture, but those aren't going to protect them, from getting bred. So they'd have to be completely away from any intact boys, always going out on a leash, which they should anyways, even if they're in a fenced in yard, you should be always with them, regardless of if they're in heat or not, because of predators. So something else I did want to talk about on this page is that spay neuter, because even though we talk to people about it, we still have a lot of people that do early spay and neuter, and it always makes me cringe when they send me the paper that the dog's been spayed, and it's 2 days after 6 months that it was done. So not something I would recommend. I would at least wait, even if you don't want to mess with that first heat cycle, I would wait at least maybe to like that 7 months, almost close to 8 months. Generally, the earliest toy fox females come in season is right around 8 to 9 months. So you're pretty safe waiting until like later in that 7th month, if you do want to get it done before they would go through that first heat cycle. Just some other things here about socialization, dog parks, things like that. Ew, gross. I stay away from dog parks. Too many germs and parasites and all of that. And then what we feed our puppies here. We do have some, where you can contact us, and then a lot of our videos are found on this Helpful Hints page. Now, the Helpful Hints page is password protected, so you'll have a page that's password protected. We give this password to people once they have joined our waiting list, or like we give it to everybody the day they pick their puppy up. We don't necessarily like give it to people like the day they join the waiting list or whatnot, but you can have it as soon as you would join our waiting list. You would just need to say, hey, can I go ahead and have the password to the Helpful Hints page? And we would get that to you ahead of time. I'll just, text it or email it to you or whatnot. But we send it home on the paperwork with everybody when they pick their puppy up that day. But it's definitely good to watch some of these videos ahead of the time that you would get your puppies. So I will go ahead and make sure that I update some of those links on my TFT Info and links page. And that's just a little bit more about our website, stuff you might want to check out. If you have any additional questions about dogs, about toy foxes after you look at this, or about our dogs specifically, make sure that you do contact us.